last video, we haven't actually had any more racing, either due to bad weather or things being postponed and pushed out and having prior commitments. So I thought that it would be a good opportunity to do a slightly different kind of video, and I spent some time with my dad in the shed the other day while he was working on both bikes, as it's nearly time for his road racing season to start, which is of course on his other bike. And I thought we would just go through some of the main differences between a Speedway sidecar and a Formula One sidecar, because I know when he first started racing the Speedway sidecar as well, that was really new to all of us. None of us had been around Speedway sidecars, and I know when I've had conversations with people and I've kind of mentioned that, you know, my dad and my husband race a Speedway sidecar, and then I say Dad actually also races an F1 sidecar, I think people get really confused, quite rightly so. And it made me realize that a lot of people, obviously, who don't come along to those events often, or even if they do, perhaps don't know a lot of the differences that there are between the two, because I think even there are quite a lot of differences. So we spent some time the other day, and I just thought we would go through some of the very basic differences between the two. So let's take a look. First up is the track surface. So the F1 sidecar races on road racing tracks and sometimes on the street circuits, and a Speedway bike races at the Speedway tracks, which are often made of either clay or shale. Next up is where they actually sit on the bike. So this is the F1 bike, and where my dad would kneel and ride the bike using obviously the handlebars. And this is where his passenger Stu would sit and kind of go either side of the bike using various handholds. As you can see, the Speedway sidecar is quite different. This part here is where Blair would kind of hang off the bike and again use various handholds to move around, and then this part here is where Dad would sit and use the handlebars. Onto the gear that they would wear whilst riding or racing the bike. So on the F1 sidecar they use leather racing suits, and with that they would use a full face road helmet. With that, they would also wear leather road gloves and boots. Again, so what they wear on the Speedway sidecar is quite different to what they would wear on the F1. On the Speedway sidecar, they wear these Kevlar suits, which give them the protection, but they are nice and lightweight. Then underneath these suits, they can wear things like chest protectors to give them extra protection. Then the difference on this bike is that they actually then wear like motocross race gloves, not the leather ones. They also would wear motocross helmets on the Speedway bike with motocross goggles as well. Well, this one's easy for the brakes because there are none.
Well, we can say that.
Yeah, I just said.
Hey?
That's what I'm doing.
Oh.
Yeah. Yep, you heard that right. There's no brakes on the Speedway sidecar. But the gear change. Now there's a rule in Speedway. You're only allowed to change
Just
gear once.
One gear change and change up a gear, but
That's
you're not
right.
supposed to change back down again. That's not in the rules. So just one gear change, and then just hold it in the same gear for 4 laps.
So that's the brake pedal.
So that's the brake pedal.
Yes, this bike does have brakes. Yeah.
Which operates 2 cylinders. So one cylinder is for the front wheel, other cylinder operates the rear and sidecar, and they're balanced out with a brake bias to change front to rear bias on the pedal. So that's the gear change. So normal operation, but we've got a quick shifter for the up changes, so we can hold full throttle and just change up. It's nice and light, so we made a linkage to lighten up the change.
Lastly, onto tyres. So on the Speedway sidecar, they actually run road racing wet tyres, which helps to give them a little bit more grip with the softer compound. And on the F1 sidecar, they run custom-sized road racing slicks, and they also have wet tyres for this bike as well, as unlike the Speedway sidecar, they are able to race in the wet. And that completes our basic overview of some of the main differences between the F1 sidecar and the Speedway sidecar. If you do have any further questions, or there's something in particular you want to know more about, then please do leave it in the comments section. My dad has said that he is more than happy to answer any technical questions, although he's not about to give all of his secrets away. But if there is something of interest, then we may well look at doing a more in-depth video in the future.